Warren Buffett's $1 billion bet on the Wall Street landlord, part 2. The scary stats. How is it going, everyone? My name is John Howard. In this short video today, it's going to be Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway investing their $1 billion, which is basically spread across two groups, which is Lennar and DR Horton. It was disclosed in their 13F filing in the middle to end of August of 25, which is really just a few weeks ago. This is part 2 in the scary stats because in part 1, it's really just kind of disclosing the fact that it's $1 billion. Now, what's significant about this, in case you haven't seen any, of my content before, I actually love talking about Warren Buffett, and I've created a lot of content, both written and video content as well. Warren Buffett is very flamboyant about real estate being a lousy investment. In fact, one of my videos is that very subject of Warren Buffett saying real estate is a lousy investment. So here we are, Warren Buffett, 95 years old as of now, retiring, at the end of 25 as the chairman and CEO of Berkshire Hathaway. But basically, he's been sitting on massive amounts of cash, of course, for really a while now because the market is so high and other reasons, right? I'm not Warren Buffett. I can just, say what the facts are and then also maybe some color on what I think. But basically, someone like him and their group that is extremely flamboyant about real estate being a lousy investment and really not investing anything related to real estate for a very long time, they're kind of going in, and $1 billion is not insignificant. So this is really about the scary stats related to, what is the Wall Street landlord. So Warren Buffett is known for making few strategic investments per year, and while he's been flamboyantly, investing in real estate for decades, he just placed a $1 billion bet on home builders DR Horton, Lennar, and NVR. About $800 million in Lennar, and then just shy of $200 million into DR Horton. But Buffett's bet here isn't on helping families achieve homeownership. It's a bet on the new reality of who gets to own homes in America. The stats Buffett could not ignore. There's a 47% increase in institutional ownership of major home builders in the last 18 months. Again, here we are, fall. It's almost October of 2025. DR Horton's build-to-rent division exploded 300% in just 2 years. 42% of DR Horton's entry-level homes now go directly to institutional investors, not families. All cash offers now represent 34% of home purchases nationwide. This may be the conversion of the American dream into a subscription service. Entire neighborhoods are being built as rental properties, but they were never intended, for families to own because they're going to be basically owned forever, right? They're going to be owned by Wall Street and rented out forever. In markets like Phoenix and Atlanta, 40% home purchases are going to investors, while first-time buyers have dropped to just 26% in those markets. 5 forces are happening to make homeownership arguably out of reach for the average American. Number 1, mortgage interest rates obviously are at 7%. Number 2, construction costs are up 38 to 42%. Number 3, only 17% of metro land is zoned for new single-family homes. Number 4, 72 million millennials competing for 1.4 million new homes built annually. Number 5, 20 trillion institutional assets with around 1% needed to buy 430,000 homes yearly. Behind every statistic is a family. The young couple saving for 5 years to lose bidding wars to cash investors. The single parent watching rent consume 50% or more of their income. The teacher who can't afford to live where they work. And that definitely, hits home because I'm actually a single parent myself. This isn't 2008. Those homes at that time eventually returned to the market. Today, corporations are removing homes permanently with business models built around own forever. This institutional layer of homeownership may be creating a 2-tier society where corporate landlords continually extract maximum profit while the general workforce is left behind. Buffett's investment may be an inflation hedge on real estate, but likely it's a bet on the newest and best bulk customer to the home builders, Wall Street. They can now sell entire neighborhoods to one customer. His typical 10-year holding periods may suggest he's acquiescing to a future where home ownership becomes more of a luxury good and not a middle-class aspiration. The question is if we'll let this trend continue, or if we demand a housing market that serves families. How about you? What are you seeing in your local market? Everybody, as I mentioned, my name is John Howard. I've been doing a lot of real estate content lately. I've been focusing on it. And the reason is because I've actually done short and medium-term furnished rentals for literally the last 2 decades. And also during that time, I also owned and or operated 5 different short and medium-term rentals. So I say that because, that's part of what I've done, but also it's something that really anybody can do, especially with a demanding career. And if you and even like a high income earner, they're actually better suited to do it because they're going to be the most likely to actually get the mortgage and get the best terms on a mortgage to actually acquire the rental property, right? But I mean, this is an interesting subject, this particular, piece of content, because obviously Warren Buffett has been very flamboyant about, not, liking real estate as investment, but here he's actually made this investment. It seems to me that it's pretty clear. I mean, I think in general, real estate has always proven to be a very strong investment, certainly over the last 30 years and even the last 100 years. And the reality is that now that Warren Buffett has observed that these home builders can sell entire neighborhoods, to Wall Street, I mean, it just really adds a lot of, just having that massive customer, adds a lot to the home builders, which are already relatively good investments, potentially in Buffett's mind, right? So now that you add that layer, that institutional customer layer, it really just maybe sweetens the deal, and then on top of that, possibly it's a really smart, hedge in terms of the hedge against inflation. If this kind of melt up, here we are in the fall of 25, if this melt up continues and stocks keep going up and real estate prices keep going up. Everybody, if you liked that video, if you found it interesting, you can consider giving the video a like. You could also consider subscribing to the channel. As I mentioned, I talk quite a bit about real estate, and I've provided you some details around how I've done short and medium term furnished rentals for the last 20 years. Fast forward to now, as I mentioned, I had a very demanding entrepreneurial career where I launched 4 different businesses, all up to 7 figures or more per year. And the reality is I actually didn't have an exit there, but thank goodness I've actually held onto my real estate. Fast forward to now, it's like, okay, I've got multiple properties, really only 3, 2 that I own entirely, and 1 is a partial interest, and it's like, between them on average, it's about 10 to, a high of, let's say, 37,000 and a half, in booking revenue per month. And there's multiple months in a year where it's more than 20,000 in a month in booking revenue. So it's proved to be a very good investment. And real estate is really one of the only investments where you get 5 benefits from one investment. And there actually is a 6th, but that 6th is, I'll get into it in a second. But obviously you get rental income and cash flow. That income and cash flow is a lot higher if you do short and medium term furnished rentals. You get appreciation, of course, and if you look at the appreciation, even the Case-Shiller index, that actually did 309% from 1995 to 2025. And if you actually factor in a 10% down payment, that's really 3,090%, which is actually better than the best performing stock index, which was the NASDAQ at 2,111% return, or 21x. So if you think about it, basically that's your home price appreciation is 10 times better than the NASDAQ. And then there's the SP 500, which did about 10,000 or 1,008%, which is really 11x. So the appreciation on real estate was actually 20x compared to what the S&P 500 did over 30 years. And again, that doesn't even include rental income and cash flow or the tax benefits. So that next one is the actual tax benefits, which is depreciation. And if you can qualify for it with short and medium term furnished rentals, you can get material participation, which allows you to write off all of the expenses related to anything related to the property. Of course, you have to qualify for it. Number 4 is you have the beauty of amortization, which is paying that loan down over time. Of course, you got to have a good loan. And number 5 is you actually have the ability to borrow against the equity in your properties so as to hopefully use it to acquire more. And that 6th benefit, which I said we'll get into it later, is you really kind of need to establish a property that's going to be paid off for when you retire. And here I am, pretty much middle aged at midlife, and it's pretty important to if I want to retire in 10 years. I mean, that's going to be kind of crappy if I haven't even bought a house yet, right? But it is important to do that, to actually set yourself up to have a house that is at least mostly paid off for you to retire in. So, if real estate is appealing to you, you'll see some links in the description area. You can go ahead and click on that. I've launched something called the SNTR Launch Kit, which is really very basic and very inexpensive. You can go check that out. I also have my email address on there if you want to ask me any questions. I also do very basic and again, very inexpensive email coaching if you're interested in checking that out. You can also put any of your comments down below regarding everything related to this, Warren Buffett and the Berkshire Hathaway release and the $1 billion investment and this scary thing with part 2. So, is it going to change? I mean, who really knows what's going to happen with real estate prices? Obviously, they're coming down. I am doing content about real estate prices coming down, which is actually a great thing because that means that, we're able to actually go and buy property hopefully for less than we did earlier in the year or let's say last year. Anyway, thank you very much. I appreciate you watching. And if you have any questions, again, put them in the comments area or you feel free to email me. Thank you.